Council and former US Ambassador to Malta. Ambassador, very good to have you back with us once again. So we've heard that there's the potential for these ceasefire talks to begin once again on Sunday. Israel has already called that proposal put forward by Hamas as unrealistic. So with all of that in mind, what are your thoughts about whether there is the possibility for a breakthrough here?
Well, I remain confident that a breakthrough is possible. We have to keep in mind that all of this is part of the negotiations. Posturing is part of it. And you can look at the words of the Israeli Prime Minister of the Hamas proposal being unrealistic. But you also must focus on the actions, which is that an Israeli delegation is going back to talk. And I think that's important.
That's very interesting. If you take a look at the deal, what we're seeing right now is a bit of a softer stance from Hamas in terms of this being a temporary ceasefire this time around. They've also said that there would be the release of 40 of some 100 Israeli hostages right now. Do you think that could be important for Netanyahu at a time when we can clearly see he's also embattled at home, calls for his resignation, those protests continue? What do you think his end game is here?
Yeah, well, we have to keep in mind that both sides are under stupendous pressure at this point. The prime minister, pressure from his own people about getting the hostages home and recognizing that the most successful way has been through negotiations. Hamas is also under stupendous pressure. The destruction of the Gaza Strip is something that everyone has seen and recognizes. Hamas needs some kind of victory. Certainly getting prisoners out is going to help it. And the statements that are coming out of the United States, on the one hand, also add additional pressure to the Israeli side. I am certain that there's pressure on Hamas from our partners in the region, from the Qataris, from the Egyptians as well, to figure out a way to get this deal done.
Well, let's touch a little bit more on those recent statements that you were just alluding to there from the United States. President Biden, for example, has said that the potential for that operation in the southern city of Rafah, where we know we've got about half of the Palestinian population currently sheltering, he has said that that would be a red line. Since then, we've also heard from Netanyahu appearing to green light it. Where does that leave Washington, President Biden, if that operation goes ahead?
Yeah. Well, it's clear that the president has growing impatience with the prime minister's willingness to put him in a very difficult position. The president has been extraordinarily generous in his support to Israel's need to reestablish safety for its citizens. And he has given support to the prime minister, but has made clear this support is for Israel. It is for the Israeli people, not necessarily for the leadership. So the prime minister is putting him in a difficult position. You've got, as you noted, Senator Schumer saying this won't fly for a long time. The Secretary of State, even after the prime minister green-lighted it, said, we have not seen the plan that we need to see that will ensure that civilians are protected if there is an incursion into Rafah. So it's very clear that this may be a breaking point with regard to how the United States gives the support to the Israeli leadership. I'm not at all suggesting there's going to be some amazing break or a complete cessation of weapons going to Israel because of the fact that our relationship is of long-standing and important. But there will be a breaking point in how this is done.
What do you think that could potentially look like then? Is there the potential for it to go past, for example, words, comments, the likes of which we've seen from Senator Schumer and then praised by President Biden? Briefly, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Certainly. We have had times in the past where the relationship has been in difficult times. President Reagan stopped sending weapons to Israel at one point. There have been difficulties with President Bush Sr., so it can get difficult, and I would argue that perhaps a harder scrub, a delay in things going to Israel, the type of things that we send, these are all ways, and of course diplomatic protection in the United Nations, these are all ways that we could modify this relationship.
Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, President of the Middle East Policy Council, as well as a former US ambassador to Malta. Always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
in place.